everyone. It is a very good afternoon to all of you from our side. Good day, good evening, good morning if it is very early at your place. My name is Marit Bromme, and I'm here today with our task force leader and our IGA board member on data, on standards, and setting all those best practices from a worldwide perspective on geothermal. Adele Manzella, warm welcome. Thank you for taking your time today to be with us.
Hello, Merit. Hello, everybody. I'm so happy to be here with you.
Very good. Before we dive with Adele in the presentation, that is also in part presented in China at the World Geothermal Congress at 23. I would like to set the scene a little bit. This is number 2 in our episodes around our data standardization efforts and our initiatives around providing those facts into the world of geothermal. First of all, our road to COP28, Dubai, next week. It's starting. It's all starting next week, and also our internal, let's say, restructuring and reshaping of how we want to present all that data that we have and that we are collecting for every World Geothermal Congress. We just recently had the one in Beijing, and we are now on the road to Calgary, Canada, in 26. Within the IGA, we have structured the global community in 7 parts, in 7 regions, and we have one mission, and that is to not only accelerate and to grow geothermal, because that's what we want to see happening, but actually we also have a big target, and that is tripling up, because we have pledged that also with our partners from the other renewable technologies. We are going to triple up by 2030, which is 6.5 years from now. Adele, you are our queen, if I may say, around heating and cooling, direct use. That is your work that you are currently and consistently doing for IGA, but also for other organizations, collecting this data, helping to write knowledge reports about it, information, fact sheets, and also the process around data collection and the world of definitions of the data. So what I would like to do is to go with you through the presentation on heating and cooling. Today it's the 22nd of November. This is the webinar on heating and cooling. For those of you who have registered as well for Friday, that is the one on power. And when we are all back from COP28, so probably in January onwards, we will providing you with updates, knowledge and information and data sheets coming out of those 7 regions that I just referred to. Adele, I would like to give you the floor and speak about heating and cooling in the world of geothermal.
Thank you, Marit. And it is really an exciting topic. Heating and cooling in the geothermal sector is seeing a wonderful growth, and we are all expecting to be tripled in a few years. Why is it also so important? Let's frame a little the context. No? Before going to geothermal, do we really need it? We all know that there is a large demand of energy all around the world. It is the spectrum of demand is very, very large, but we have some major industrial countries demanding a lot of energy, others a little less, but the demand of energy is increasing with time, as you can see in this graph. And it is still provided with fossil fuel in large parts. If we go to the next slide, we will see that on average, but it is the same in all the main industrial countries. Only a part of it is for electrical uses for transport, but more than half, a little more than half, let's say on average 50%, the demand is for heating and cooling application. And of these 1/2, one half, so 25%, about 25% of the global energy and use is for industrial processes, and 46% for building, so for heating and cooling of building. So there is a large demand that is up to now has been mostly based on fossil fuel, with all the emissions that are related to, and we all know about this. So geothermal plays a main role for this possibility to produce heating and cooling for a number of applications. So in IGA, we defined since many, many years, there are categories of application, and we recently reframed them, categorized them slightly differently and synthesizing, ranking them in these main categories, so related to the main application, of which clearly one is for heating and cooling for buildings, and another one is for industrial process heat. This is collected by IGA, as these are for total production from geothermal source, but we also connect, and we will see in the next slide, we also collect more precise data on specific plants, large plants. So for them, we also collect data not only on the application, but also on the technology used to provide the application. So all this is organized in IGA thanks to the World Geothermal Congresses. Up to now, there has been a number of congresses collecting this data through the country updates. So now, arriving to the last World Geothermal Congress, the collection of data produced a total of 173 gigawatt of installed capacity for geothermal application, and 1 petajoule of annual use, thanks to the geothermal technologies. And here you see also what is the share. So the main player is heating and cooling for buildings, followed by health, recreation, and tourism. We collected, so we grabbed them in just one category, including the spa, balneology, and all the related uses. And the third application is agriculture and food processing. And then we have industrial process heat and other uses. How did these grow with time? With IGA has a wonderful database on these, for these, so we can see how it grew in the, so with a period of five years, because previously the World Geothermal Congress were every 5 years, and now we have in 3 years from the last World Geothermal Congress that was held in Reykjavik on 2020. And even in 3 years, we have seen an increase of 60% with respect to the installed capacity, what was collected in World Geothermal Congress 2020, let's say. And in the next slide, we will see the use that grew of 44%. So a large increase, and as you can see from these colors, the sector that is growing more rapidly is the heating and cooling for buildings. Where does this happen? If we look at a map, in a world map, we will see that, of course, the production is very different from country to country. There are major players, and you can recognize that some of these major players are also countries that request a lot of that has a very high demand, energy demand. So it's not so strange that these countries, but also produce a lot of energy from geothermal resources, but it is not straightforward, no? So since some of the players, in particular the first one, is particularly high, let's go in more detail from a geographical point of view. We will see, I split the data from a geographical, not geopolitical, but a very geographical point of view. This is just one way, of course. So we have the different countries, continents, and in what I call the transcontinental countries, I mean Russia, Turkey, and other few countries on the margin of between Europe and Asia. So we see that how these grew, the production grew from one continent to another and with time. So, for example, agricultural food processing has seen an increase in Europe, in Asia, and also in the transcontinental countries, although some of the data requires further check related to all the World Geothermal Congress, but the general trend is clear. In America, in Africa, and in Oceania, the trend is essentially flat, okay? For another category, industrial process heat, consider that the vertical scale differs from category to category. You may remember that the industrial process heat is the fourth in production with respect to the others. And we have seen an increase, a clear increase in Oceania, not so much in the other countries. And in Asia, there is some strange data. The organization of data is also important to pick this discrepancy, and so that we can do now further check for the past. They had the health, recreation, and tourism that originally in 1995, in the first World Geothermal Congress, this was the largest category. But now it grew following the various years, and the main increase is seen in Asia, and then in transcontinental countries, essentially Turkey, whereas for the others remain more or less the same. For heating and cooling for building, we see not only the largest production, but also the quickest growth in production. This is clear in America, in Europe, and it is so clear in Asia, where the production has been particularly quick. And so we see how much the importance of that is acquiring this application in the geothermal sector. In the next, the other uses that are all the categories that are not included in the previous one, we see an increase in Europe, in Oceania, and a little also in Asia. Now, all these data are important, and are important also for our perspective of maximizing in tripling, we said, the production and the contribution. So we need to go on with these, and data are of large support for these target. We have to take into account what are the barriers to be taken off the road to speed up the process of development. So we need to speed up the production. Of course, also the speed up of technological development, but also improve the regulatory frameworks, taking an eye on the global heating and cooling trend, which up to now has been, up to not such a long time ago, has been a little low in the radar. So electricity was the main sector, especially for renewables, but now the importance of renewables also for heating and cooling is increasing. Up to now, we have seen it mainly by electrifying the heating and cooling sector, but it is clear that geothermal can go very much beyond this limit. Also because, as well as others, but geothermal provide not only heating and cooling production per se, but also heat storage and underground heat storage. So we have a whole, a large range of technologies ready and in development for such a challenge that we have ahead. And to do this, we can triple. We have perspective of producing more and more. We have to take into account what I said in the World Geothermal Congress, two factors. One is clarified in this picture. On one side, you see that with our perspective of producing in a few years, no, up to 7,000 petajoule per year, we can cover a large part of the actual demand, which is not foreseen to grow the demand from the demand side. There isn't the perspective of an incredible growth of demand for the heating. But what is foreseen is an increase in the cooling demand. And geothermal can supply both of them with its technology. So we have to take into account also these in our road ahead. And another thing that is not clarified here, but I tell you, keep in mind that a large part of the heating and cooling is for industrial processes. So I foresee that there will be more and more interest also of the geothermal sector toward industrial uses to be able to really take care of the large demand of heating and cooling from our countries, from our world, actually. And I think, no, right. No, this is the most important part. Or, of course, data per se, so the absolute data are important. But what is also the message here is that without data, we cannot do communication, because either all the production around the world, spread around the world, they are pieces of a jigsaw. And we have to combine them to be able to say, okay, we are now here, and we can produce, we can, of course, produce more, but we are already here at this moment, and we need this data not only to certify what we are doing, but also from a regulative point of view, what we need. So data reporting it should become a requirement. It is already for electricity, but it is not so for the heating and cooling. So we have a lot of work to do on regulation point of view. To do this well, we need also harmonization on terminology, for example, of indicators. We need access to the data, and also we need a quality check for the data, because we are working on this, for example, analyzing the discrepancy of reported data for geothermal. So there is a lot of work that IGA is doing on this regard, where collection of data is the first, just the first, but of course, fundamental stone for all these standardization that involve also data, production data and geothermal data. Finally, I think that there is another, it's this. So how can we do? IGA is ready for this challenge, and with clear idea and something very clear in mind on how to proceed on this track.
Thank you, Adele. This is extremely useful, and I hope it is also well received by our community, which I think it is. It was already well received in China, but I guess also the road towards Calgary 26, it is going to be part of the discussions from now on with our country authors, our ambassadors, if you like. And I have to start with maybe a few questions for those who are present as well in this Zoom room. You can ask your questions because we are not with that many. You may ask your questions as well by raising your hand or writing a chat, or maybe Gregor, we open the floor as well with a microphone and a camera. But I am first of all, Adele, thank you for providing this overview because it is very, very interesting. And collecting the data is the first step. It's the first stone, as you said. But then it comes to curating that data and to making it in a coherent definition way, and that requires a quality check. And it's those two steps that I really like to ask you. How do you do that? How do you define that? Now, I know you had a task force, both for power and direct use, so basically heating and cooling, but maybe it is good to sort of elaborate a little bit on how you came up with those standards, on the definitions, what it is that we are collecting, but also how you then transform that into a coherent data set. And of course, who's quality checking, right? Who's doing that for us? So is that okay, Adele, to answer that? Thank you.
Sure. Well, first of all, it was this work started so 2 years ago, I would say. With IGA, we said, okay, we have an issue with data. First of all, because there are different reporting of geothermal data. IGA has been always a main source of information, but there was some discrepancy on how data were provided, the data sources, and so on. And also we realize, especially for the heating and cooling, because electricity has much more standardized reporting, also by regulation in many countries, whereas it is not the same for heating and cooling. And beside that, we have a sector, an energy sector with so many applications, so many plants, so many uses, which is very peculiar. So the problem was some of the sources reported production ranked by application, but sometimes these data were based on technology. The main example is heat pumps, but heat pumps originally were essentially for heating and cooling of spaces, of buildings, but then more and more they became also used for industrial processes, agricultures, and so on. So saying heat pumps is not an application per se, is a technology, and doesn't anymore mean heating and cooling for buildings. So what is the right term to classify the data provided, for example, for heat pumps? So we, in IGA, so IGA, in the fixed part of the IGA, which is you and your team, but we organize, so I propose, and you organize a very, very interesting activity calling experts from all around the world. At the moment, it was 2 small groups, one for the electricity and the other for heating and cooling. Heating and cooling at the time were still direct uses. What I was saying, and all the experts agreed upon, direct use means something to the geothermal sector, but nothing outside the geothermal sector. Is not a term that is used, that is standard. So let's drop it. Let's start to call it as heating and cooling. This was the first decision of the expert group for heating and cooling. And then how to rank this information. So terminology, which also connects to communication. Without communication, we are in trouble, no? Because communication of data, of so many things is a main pillar in all industrial, let's say, sector, okay? So we need standards from many point of view, standards in terminology, standards in reporting. We established already a reporting, the expert group provided information, and then these were utilized for the World Geothermal Congress templates when countries were requested to report geothermal production data. So that was the first part of this. We are aware that this work is not done, is not completed yet. For example, just a main example, underground thermal storage. There isn't a definition of production for these. These require some more discussion how to report this data, because it is for different application. The storage is used for many different application, can be reported in different ways. So we have to create a standard also for that part. But this is a main example, but there are many detailed features that still need to be fixed. So the expert group activity must continue and involve all those who work in some way in reporting for energy production in the different countries. One main difficulty in this is that regulation in most countries does not require to report energy production for heating and cooling. It is not requested, and this means that even the geothermal association that provide data for their countries do not have the possibility to check the data, and this goes back to the quality. The quality check is important. A part of this problem is on terminology. For example, installed capacity. We know that installed capacity is one word that may be different because depends on in what part of the process, let's say, it is measured. So even the term installed capacity is not clear enough. It must be accompanied by an exact definition. But beyond that, it is also who is going to check what is the real production. How are you computing the installed capacity, for example, or the production from an installed capacity is in a way the easy part, but then from that to go to the real production, is it a net production, a gross production? All these should be defined very, very clearly and reported in some way. So a lot of work to be done, but with the growing interest for heating and cooling, we are following, in any case, a wave of interest in this direction.
Yes, I think you're right. I think this is exactly what we see happening, right? The demand for clean heat and cooling, as you said, is also very much part of the growth curve for geothermal as well, to jump on that wagon. But the consumption of that clean heat will grow, and hence we as geothermal have also a role to play in delivering that clean heat, and hence the reporting of that heat. Now, I like it, what you said about the regulation, because I picked it up on your presentation as well earlier in the year when you gave this overview. Electricity markets are heavily regulated, and hence probably that's the reason why they are so much easier, if I may say so. It's not never easy to collect data, but it's relatively easier because it is more standardized, it is regulated, and hence the definitions of what is electricity and how many megawatts is an asset producing and has it installed capacity as per that regulation. That's probably why it is easier, right?
Yes.
And yes. Heating and cooling not. It is random sometimes per country what is reported, or if it's reported at all.
In most countries, it is not reported. No. So the geothermal association struggle to obtain this data, also because some of them have a role in their countries, but some of them, no. How can you go to the single producer? Also because another difference is electricity are plants. for
Yes,
electricity,
it's an
the
asset.
plants.
Yeah.
In this case, we have small producers, and we cannot ask to all of them to provide data, quality check, and so on. This is not their business in general. No, electricity is their business because it is a market. Heating and cooling, in most applications that I'm talking about, is for example, for the spas. It is not important for them to know how much energy they are producing by geothermal technology. Is not in their business. No, it's an extra data they have to provide. And some engineer must go there and do this computation and take the data necessary for doing this computation. Agriculture is the same. So it takes a little. But this is part of the energy efficiency of the different processes. So in any case, we are not requesting something on the moon. No, it's something which is important.
Requesting normal data on planet Earth. Yes. Yes. I got it, Adele. I got it. Hey, and maybe final question on my end, and if there are any from the audience, happy to take those as well, of course. Task forces now, heating and cooling. You said there were quite a few experts from all over the world joining your task force already since 2 years ago. Are they all continuing, or do you have vacancies in your expert group, Adele?
They are all keen to continue, but I think that the group should expand also because this topic is becoming more and more on the radar of different countries. And I think that we need to expand the group, not to a huge extent, otherwise it's not easy to work.
It'll be difficult for you to manage the group. Yes, true.
Yes, exactly.
Yes, yeah.
But we are looking for the person with different roles and different expertise also because, as I said, the applications are so different that we need expertise in very, very different fields of knowledge. So it's not only engineers, it's not only economists, but sometimes even geologists, hydrogeologists, because to compute certain data, we need also underground information, the flow rate, and so there are many things that goes in these in producing this data. And then we will continue this discussion. Hydrogeologists, by the way, are so important in thermal storage. No, so how all this is produced becomes more and more complex, but even exciting. I am a researcher, so
yes, I know that. You will. This is also so important to have you with us because this is not an easy topic. It's a super important topic, but it takes people like you who are willing to put their mind in it, their knowledge, but also their expertise and the stamina to do this on a worldwide basis. Because I think this is a huge compliment to you, Adele, and also to your task force, because it is. This is not an easy topic, and if you would do this for your country alone, as in one type of regulations, one type of data collection, one type of asset, for instance, or maybe just heating and cooling in the built environment, I can see that is already quite a job. But what you have been doing over the past years, and now will be doing over the coming 2.5 years in the road to WGC in Calgary. It's almost 88 countries. It's a lot of different type of categories, a lot of data, a lot of individualism as well, and hence to make some sense out of that. You must have a research mind, otherwise you will move fastly to another subject. So thank you. It is an honor to have you on board.
But let me also, I am one part of the brain, but to collect and organize this data, it is important, your role, the role of Gregory in particular, because the database at the end is something it is not made of iron. It is made of it is on a computer, but it is an important part of all these and all the tools that are required for queries for data. And Gregor is building all these for IGA. So we hope to arrive to a publication of these very soon. For the moment, only we have graphs, but it is important to also to interrogate data. This is a large part, an important, a very crucial part of all this discourse. So IGA is a very front. It is very advanced from this point of view. There is you are on the front end of something that will provide all this data will be then available to all the entities in the world that needs this data for also for the forecasting, for example. It is really strategic to have a database on a global database on this.
I agree, and yes, I have nothing more to add. I agree. I have an eye on the chat. I don't see any particular questions. Neither do I see a hand raised. So if the audience doesn't have any more questions, and I think you were very clear, Adele, and also very informative about the process so far and where we are heading towards. And with that, I think, look, we are preparing some infographics that we have already prepared some, but we are preparing a few more in the run-up to Dubai next week to COP28, but also in the coming months. And then also per region, where we would like to see some figures for, and then also dive into those conversations with those regions. So I think this is indeed very important. These are all stepping stones towards being the ultimate source of data in a coherent way for geothermal energy worldwide. But it all starts with someone who coordinates, who comes up with an idea, and who manages also a team of volunteers throughout the world doing this. So Adele, once more, thank you very much also for your time today. And with that, see you soon. And also to the audience, thank you for joining. And I hope this was useful. As we said, Friday, we have another session, and then with Louise Negrin, who was our author for the World Update on Power. So basically the electricity markets that currently we're serving 31 countries. So compared to Adele, it's like not even the half. So Louise had the easier job, as Adele also pointed out, also in a more regulated way, but still lots of interesting insights coming from the electricity side from Louise and the hard work he has put into it. So join us again on Friday. And with that, Adele, have a lovely day, lovely afternoon. And to all of you, see you soon. Okay, goodbye.
Thank you.